Kia ora and welcome to Beer Club. I'm Joe.
I'm Luke.
And this is Marion Street by Garage Project out of their Wild Workshop. So it's called an inner city Saison.
Love that.
Yeah, I guess Saison is a farmhouse style, and their Wild Workshop is smack bang in the middle of Wellington CBD on Marion Street, which is cheers, between two pretty major roads, Gusney and Vivian. And yeah, they brew a ton of really cool beer out of there, all sorts of styles, and they make hazy IPAs and blend them with sort of sour beer that comes from the Wild Workshop. And yeah, I haven't tasted this yet, but I'm sure it'll have, I can already smell that.
Big aroma.
Yeah, and that sort of house strain in this sour beer that they do there. It sort of has its own unique profile, which is from the bugs that are floating around in the air of Wellington, which might turn you off when you first think about that, but it's just natural sort of yeasts and bacteria. It's not other bugs that might exist on Marion Street.
And what an incredible city for beer, Wellington. And we're just saying it used to be, until very recently, that another lovely brewery, Three Sisters, Whistling Sisters.
Whistling Sisters.
Whistling Sisters was just across the road from them, like a few meters away from the workshop.
Just diagonally through a building.
That
close, yeah.
So until they sadly closed, but they're just right near the spot where Parrot Dog kicked off originally 13 years or so ago. And there's Choice Bros is just up from there, and just such a close area where so much beer is being brewed and happening, and just up from
Mean Doses,
and the Garage Project garage over across on Arrow was the first brewery in Wellington in modern times, and it really is the brewery that kicked things off.
Where was the Max Brewery on the waterfront? Did they brew there, or was that just?
Yeah. I think I'm thinking about just like the independent, modern, but I would have to look before making sweeping statements like the first brewery in Wellington. And then like quite quickly afterwards, we saw a whole flurry of other breweries popping up, and then quite a few years later, the Wild Workshop arriving, and as a completely separate operation. So there's a different head brewer there. So it's Dave Bell, who's a really talented brewer that was at Siren in Britain before. He looks like a wizard. It's long beard, really lovely guy. And they're very, very strict about cross-contamination. I remember chatting to Dave once about an issue that he'd had at a previous brewery where I think 7 entire batches of beer got infected, and your beer's infected, it's going down the drain. So they've got really strict procedures that people don't travel between the garage brewery and the Wild Workshop, and there's special wellies to put on, and you walk through sort of clean buckets, and because you don't want bugs getting where they shouldn't be.
Yeah, and I guess that's very important. We've seen it in New Zealand, certain breweries struggling with that. So having two separate sites means you can let Dave go as crazy as he wants, and mix as many different cultures and bugs into all the beers, and then you can keep producing your incredibly clean lagers and all your ferments up the road.
And you've been to Wild Workshop, eh?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, it's always a great place to go if you're down in Welly.
Yeah.
Tap beers, they'll have a lager on, they'll have a IPA on, and then sort of maybe 2 or 3 really cool mixed ferm beers. So
and the place is just full of barrels, and they've got a cool ship type operation, and there's amphora, which are always really beautiful to see. They're just huge clay. They just look like a giant vase, and that's what beer and wine was fermented in for millennia. So that's really cool. And of course, the shape of a vessel really affects fermentation as well, with the material that it's made of and what can happen. But the story of Inner City Saison is, I think a lot of people think of these sort of styles as being quite pastoral and linked to the countryside. And of course, Saison is the French word for season. People talk about farmhouse ales and think about this halcyon countryside environment where these things are happening and bubbling away. But the story in the history of beer is the story in the history of humans. So yeah, there's always been beer brewed at farmhouses to keep everyone fully loaded. Refreshed, yeah. It isn't that term, it's always hydrated, but it's actually fortified and, with a delicious treat. But also there's been beer brewed everywhere that are people. So styles like Grisette is a style that was specifically brewed for the coal miners in Belgium. And actually, arguably the most important wild ferment brewery is Cantillon, which is, well, it's not in the middle of Brussels, but it is in a very industrial area of Brussels. It's a place where there's lots of traffic, and it's kind of a bit of a rough area of town. And you go there, and the way that the cultures, the bacteria, the yeast get into the beer is they have a cool ship, which is just it looks like a big drip tray, like when you get your car fixed, and a big metal tray, but gigantic. And the cooled wort, the sugary water you make your beer with, is spread onto this drip tray overnight. And then the sort of louvres, so it's just beneath the roof, it's in the eaves, are opened up, and the air just flows through and sort of drops whatever little beasties and microorganisms onto this warm sugary water overnight. And then they just go to town. So I think a lot of people that really put a brewery like Cantillon really on a pedestal, and they go and visit it, and it's like, actually there's quite a lot of exhausts and factory fumes and things around here, but it's that's the culture, like literally as in like bioorganism culture, and that's what makes that beer so special. It's a beer of the city, and surely that's what they had in mind at Wild Workshop when that was all coming together.
Yeah, when they cool ship up upstairs there. Open everything up, and you have to really have the right temperature and the wind speed and everything. So I think it is quite a last minute job. It's planned for ages, and then it's all go when the conditions are right.
Yeah, it's very much looking at the forecast, because it's quite a narrow temperature range. That if it's too warm, then you're going to get the wrong kind of stuff in there, and you are going to get some nasty off flavors in your beer. Rather than the beautiful flavors that we have in this beer here.
Yeah, so this beer isn't cool shipped. So you can, if you've drank Saison before and you didn't read the back of this, you might be a bit surprised and slightly shocked at the flavor of this. But you can tell this beer started life as a sort of clean fermented Saison. You've got a little bit of that kind of ester character, a little bit sort of light banana-y, and the wheat really comes through. So they'll take a clean fermented Saison and then presumably age it in oak first. And that's where the bugs and everything get in and give you that kind of funk, and then blended with a sour. So they have a lot of, I think, just sort of sour stock in tank or in barrels there.
Yeah.
So they'll be tasting those and sort of tasting different blends, seeing what works with the Saison they've created, and sort of mixed fermentation Saison they've produced, and they'll blend it off, and we're the lucky recipients of such a meticulous process, but so delicious.
And there are broadly two kinds of sour beer. So there's the sour beer that has cartoons on the can and is inevitably flavored with ice cream and sweetie type flavors. So they're the Lacto kettle sours, which come from originally Berliner Weisse and Goza, are the sort of traditional sort of precursors of those styles. And these days they are mainly fruited, so it would be lovely to see more kettle sours that are more traditional, just salted with coriander perhaps.
Yeah, we love Hippie Berliner, which is Hāpi, but North End's become the ocean. Just a sea salt Goza.
Yeah.
Really delicious.
Yeah. And it sounds like I'm saying that disparagingly. Like a lot of these like fruity sours are delicious, and it's also a wonderful way to get more people into beer. Just at our tap room here, we'll often have something like that on tap, and people are just just so happy to see a beer that tastes like a delicious fruity punch bowl. So that's kettle soured in a quick way, and then you've got your sour, like a base beer that would have gone into this, which is wild fermented with all those bugs, and that takes time. And it's not as though one is necessarily best than the other. One does take more time, so it's generally more expensive when you see these funky wild beers. But they're different things, different processes.
Yeah, very different things.
Yeah.
And this beer is not super hoppy, but there's definitely hop character to it. It's hopped with a bunch of sort of interesting hops. There's Saison, obviously a noble Czech hop, but then they use Pacifica and Kohatu, which are both New Zealand hops, but bred from Hallertau Mittelfrucht, which goes into all the sort of German lagers and everything like that we love, and a hop called Dr. Rudy, which you don't see it very often. It used to be called Super Alpha. It's been around since the 70s.
Yeah.
A very famous New Zealand hop from something called New Zealand Smooth Cone.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting, light sort of tropical vibes, and perfect sort of hop addition for the style, working well with the esters and that sourness just to balance out.
Yeah, and it's can conditioned, which means it will change quite likely. Perhaps not hugely because it is blended and mixed, but definitely would be a fun beer to store and see how it does change. Sort of in the same world as a beer like Orval, just the most incredible Belgian beer. That's a monastic beer brewed at a Trappist monastery, and it's Belgian pale ale that is quite hop forward relatively, and is famously a beer that it's bottled fresh, and all the nerds have their preference as to whether they prefer fresh Orval or Orval at 3 months or at 2 years, because to begin with it's kind of clean and a bit hoppy, and then as it gets funky with time. So it will be cool to see how this develops with some time, if we can manage to not drink them all and hold some back. And very cool artwork. Presumably Marion Street in a city Saison. Is this the first of a series, or are they?
No, I think this is a re-release.
Okay.
From memory.
Yeah.
When I saw it pop up, I was super excited.
Yeah.
So I think it was originally released in the big bottles. So maybe 375s and 750s. But getting the can treatment, which we love to see for our little boxes that you receive every 6 weeks. We decided to do away with bottles because of breakage and all of that.
Yeah, way fewer things getting smashed. Now we have cans, so that's good news. And really cool artwork of this little nail house in amongst the big city, sort of reminiscent of a Sim City or computer game type thing. And it's lower ABV. Was it 4.3, 4.2? And I always think these style of beer is just so well fitted to lower alcohol. You're not missing anything. You're not drinking it and like wishing. You have more flavour and bigger anything.
Yeah, if it was 2% or if it was 6%, you wouldn't really notice much difference in taste. But being sort of mid ABV means you can have 2 if you like it, and still drive if you didn't.
Yeah. Pretty delicious beer.
Yeah.
Excellent work to all the Garage Project team and the team at Wild Workshop especially. Thank you for joining us once more for Beer Club. We'll see you next time. Cheers.